Welcome to the Ardan Labs podcast. Our special guest today is the one, the only Samantha Coyle. Look who we have here. Now, if you were on YouTube watching, you would see the big giant smile that Samantha always has a smile on her face. It's awesome. How's it going, Samantha?
Pretty good. No complaints. Good Wednesday so far. And I just ate, so I'm happy.
You're not going to feel sluggish and tired now. You feel energized.
I hope so.
You look happy about lunch. I don't usually eat until lunch, so sometimes I get that same feeling, like it's finally lunchtime. I can eat.
Wow. Well, it was leftover spaghetti and it was made with like homemade tomatoes and all that good stuff. So
Oh,
extra good for this batch.
you were dreaming about it all day, like I can have for lunch. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. It happens. In fact, I had made some sausage yesterday, and I was dreaming about it all day for lunch too. So we're in the same boat. We're in the same boat for a good lunch today. All right, enough of that nonsense, Samantha. We're here to kind of learn about you. So let's start with giving everybody, give me like the 1 minute spiel. I call it the spiel. I don't know where I got that word from. Maybe growing up in New York or something. But give me the 1 minute spiel on what you're doing today. So, what is Samantha busy working on today?
Wow. Well, there's a lot of aspects to what I do, and I try to find a good balance of my time. So for work, I do a lot of really fun stuff in the distributed application development space, more so cloud native and also open source. So it's like a really fun mixture that I get to play with for work. And so I'm working on one of our products right now to enable developers to build high scale modern web applications that can be like cross cloud service providers and event driven and so forth. So it's really fun
What
stuff that I get.
company?
Oh, sorry. I guess that I should say it's like a 30-person startup called Diagrid. And technically,
Okay.
we're based out of Washington because I believe that's where our CTO is and CEO. So we're technically based there, but I'm in Austin, Texas, and we're fully remote. Yeah. So, yeah, I get to work on our internal product as well as give back to the open source community. So a few of our products are built on top of the Dapper open source community, which is the 10th largest CNCF project out there. And so I get to give back to Dapper upstream, as well as right now I'm kind of focused on our managed services for our platform. So primarily PubSub, Kafka, and State Store for Postgres. So it's kind of like the realm I'm in now, as well as like bug fixing and, the like usual fun stuff that comes with our typical days.
I can't believe you found time to talk to me. I'm exhausted just hearing all that. Whoa. How do you keep all that in your head, Samantha? That's a lot.
It's even more with like the stuff that I do outside of work because I'm trying to again find like a good balance in my life with recently purchasing a house that has fun house projects and finding time for sleep. Yeah, thanks.
No, the house is my daughter, child number one. Everybody knows I number the kids. So number one just put a offer on a house and she got it accepted. So she's about to start that aspect of her life too. So hopefully nothing's a big money. I just begged her, find a house that you can live in for the first year without having to put much money into, if any at all.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, my fan in my office doesn't work. So I've got stuff like that and other stuff that I've fixed with the help of my wonderful boyfriend, like a toilet seal that broke and other stuff like that, and lots of projects on the horizon. So,
No, it's just that's what it is. That's what the house is all about. But at some point, like 5 years from now, the house will be exactly where you want it, and then you can sell it and start over.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, sweet. I have family in Austin too. I don't go very often. Music scene is supposed to be really good over there. Do you go out and see the bands? My sister loves going out and seeing the live music there.
hmm So I used to go to a few downtown Austin. It's been a while for sure. So yeah, I haven't been to any recently, but I should change that.
I think you should. I mean, you have what's going to happen is at some point you might move from Austin, and then you're going to think, man, all those things I didn't do that I had at my fingertips. Yeah.
hmm Yeah.
We're going to get back to all of that by the time we're at the end of this journey. But Samantha, unfortunately, I got to put you in the time machine. So you've got to answer a couple questions here. One, um, kind of where did you grow up? And two, what year did you graduate high school?
Okay. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas until the second grade. And then my parents wanted more property and to get out of the big city hubbub. And so we left San Antonio when I was young and moved to Seguin, which is a smaller town. So about 25,000, 30,000 people in Seguin. You can cross town in 7 minutes. However, not anymore because it's definitely booming there because it's kind of between San Antonio and Austin. So it's a good suburb of those bigger cities. So mostly grew up in Seguin and then made my way. You said graduate high school. What year?
Yeah. Where were you when you graduated high school? Were you in that town? Seguin, you said? I've never heard of this town before. Seguin. Is that where you graduated high school?
Yeah. So most people usually will put sequin on accident, but it's Seguin with a G. And
Seguin.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay. That's fair.
I graduated high school in 2016. So we're in 2024 now. Not too
Yep.
long
So
ago,
eight,
but
8 years ago. No, that's
far
okay. I
enough.
look. I interviewed somebody who was 17 years old a couple of days ago. Bia Silab, and graduated high school already, and almost done with college already. So yeah, wild stuff, right? Yeah, no, she's amazing. So so yeah, it's even though it's not that long ago, it's still more than Bia. So there you go.
Yeah.
Bia's gonna listen to this and go, Bill, what are you doing? Oh no, that's great. Okay, so you said 2016. Okay, it just gives me a sense of kind of where you are in tech at the time that you're starting to learn all that. So I have to imagine, was this like a super small town, like 30,000 people, sort of living in it? Yeah.
Yes. And it's like I still go back to Seguin for some of my doctor's appointments because I just love my doctors and like have a really good relationship, small town vibes very much so. But not too small.
But at least like you had maybe like 1,000 kids in your high school.
Yeah, actually, it was like
Yeah.
848, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's super small, but not okay. So it's perfect. So I got the sort of lay of the land there. Okay. So let me ask you my first question. I love asking all my guests this question. You got to, if anybody's not watching the YouTube on this one, you have to. Because Samantha, every time I'm going to ask her something, she starts, okay. I love the facial expression she's giving me. You got to watch this. Okay. Okay. I don't want you to think. I want you to clear your mind. Clear your mind of all thoughts, just empty thoughts. First thought comes into your mind if you're working on a computer. First thought, I don't care what it is. Don't think hard. First thought, you and a computer.
Oh, I think one of the earliest that I'm remembering is I did some class in high school, like maybe middle school or early high school, that it was more open-ended. It was some tech class, and we were making music videos, and I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I was doing something with music and videos. That's the
And that was high
oldest.
school.
Late middle
So
school, early high school. That's the only
late
thing
middle
coming to
school.
mind that's
Okay.
early.
No, that's fair. That's fair. So you didn't have a computer in the house growing up?
Oh, we did. We did. Mom would do financial stuff and emails and book trips, that kind of stuff, like the typical utility laptop or computer.
But you weren't allowed to touch that because she needed it for work or something.
I just didn't. I don't know. I
You just didn't. No, no, that's fair.
yeah,
No, that's fair. I was
yeah.
just
I
curious.
guess tech wise, probably earlier than that music class would be playing video games with my brothers because I have two older brothers, and that's probably like the earliest I interacted a lot with any technology would be, the SNES, GameCube. I had a DS that I think I'm going to sell here soon because I just found it again. Playing.
Does it work? Did you at least try it?
Yes, I
Did
turned
you at
it
least
on.
turn it on and try to play some games?
It's still got
Okay.
charge. So,
I think you're gonna have to like just go retro on that and play it for a month before you get rid of it, just to bring back some memories.
yeah, maybe. It's a Pokemon game that I found too, and I like the Pokemon games and Halo and those kinds of games, having older brothers. And I don't know, even younger ones like Putt Putt Travels Through Time, stuff like that. I think that would be probably some of my even earlier tech memories, not just necessarily a computer or laptop. Yeah.
But do you remember the first time you started writing even a little bit of code?
College.
Would that be in high school or after high school?
College.
Oh, in college.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to get to college yet. I don't want to talk about college yet. I want to stay in high school for a minute. So tell me what was holding your interests in high school? What were you spending your time on during high school?
Yeah, so middle school to high school is definitely a change from doing band stuff, and I think kind of making my grandparents happy that we were doing band. So middle school was like French horn, and yeah, that's
I was going to ask you.
yeah, French horn.
It's a very pretty instrument. The French horn is a very pretty instrument, right? Like I always wanted to learn how to play the trumpet, but my dad was a sax player. But for some reason, me and my siblings never got into music. Um, but the French horn is really pretty. So, can you still play it? If I got you a French horn right now, could you play something on it?
No, no. So that's the thing. And it was one of those weird moments where I felt like at first we were making our grandparents kind of disappointed going into high school because me and my sister, and I will say we a lot because I'm a twin. So it's just I have experienced much of life, especially younger, is like we did this. So it just comes out all the time. But yeah, going into high school, it was a big switch into sports and everything sports, club volleyball. I tried tennis for a week, which going from volleyball to,
For a
oh,
week?
yeah, oh, it's horrible. Like, well, I was not good because, playing volleyball, you serve, toss ball, and you use your hand. But with tennis, you like extend the hand. So it really threw me off. And then, yeah, all of my time was sports, aside from classwork, which was really important.
When I think about tennis and volleyball, tennis is this really competitive individual sort of sport that scares the heck out of me. But volleyball is a very much a team. I mean, this competitive, don't get me wrong, but it's not this sort of individual thing where you're competitive with a group.
Yeah, I would agree. So volleyball was definitely one of like a top two sport of mine. That and running, be it cross country or track. I enjoyed both, and I actually went all the way to state for track for the 800 meter race. So I was really good at track. And actually, now that I'm saying this, it might have been the mile run that I made it to state for. My best mile time in high school was a 5:23, 5 minutes and 23 seconds.
Okay, I ran track. Okay, the fastest mile I ever ran was 5:09, and it was in the middle of winter. I was just cold. So you're like you were running as fast as I could ever have ran. That's absolutely. Did you get to go to the Penn relays? The Penn State has
No.
oh, at least when I was in high school, Penn State had a track meet essentially for the best of the best in high school. They call it the Penn Relays, I think. So, I mean, with those times, you should have been able to go there. Wow. I was cross country. I don't know. I ran cross country and I ran the mile race and I hated it. I was too small to be a sprinter. Okay. I was just too
Oh,
small.
yeah.
Right. I was super tiny in high school, but I hated it because every time I'd have to race, like let's say you're doing cross country, right? And you have to go up hills and stuff. I just knew no matter what it was, I have to run for the next 18 minutes. Like for the next eight, everybody else gets to finish their race in 60 seconds, but not me. I got to run for the next 18 minutes or I got to run for the next 5.5 minutes. I always wished I was a sprinter.
I never understood how sprinters could move their legs so fast. Like mine just didn't move like that. I could just keep going and keep going and going and going. So that was my running history, I suppose. And I really liked it. Even now, I think there are some aspects of life that I just enjoy being a little robot doing, and running was one of them. I would tune everything out. If you played music as I ran, or you said something to me as I ran by you, I might not hear it if I'm being honest, because you get in your own little bubble.
So when I was in high school, there was no music that you could play in your ears when you ran. So I would run and similar to what you're saying. And then as an adult, when I started trying to run again, everybody'd be like, "Why are you not listening to music?" And I'd be like, "Because I can't. Like I've learned it's a distraction. Like I don't want it in my head."
I'm with you. Yeah. And plus, it's not safe. If you're running in the street, I always I don't like the people who run like in the streets and in very urban areas with headphones because I just think it's so dangerous. You should be aware of the surroundings, and if you can't hear cars around you, it's not good.
Do you ever run on a treadmill or you only like running outside?
Oh, that was something I had to learn how to do, especially if you're running several miles. It gets very boring on a treadmill. So I had to learn how to do that with actually music here and there. I don't do it often, but I do music here and there to get by.
You know what's funny? I always said that if I had a treadmill in the house that I would use it. Like I was using that as an excuse as I got older not to run. And then when I got married, um, and I moved into my wife's house, she had a treadmill in the bedroom. Okay. I've lived in the house for 3 years. Ask me how many times I've used the treadmill.
Zero?
Zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I stare at it every day and I'm like, Bill, you said to yourself if there was a treadmill, you would use it. And I just never go on it.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you're active and healthy, that's all that matters, really.
True. Okay. Which of those sports was your favorite, though? What season were you most? I have to imagine it was volleyball. It wasn't volleyball.
I don't know. I think I would say track because being on a team where there were a lot of different personalities and all women, there were some struggle moments and cattiness. So there was like that aspect, and that also like bubbled into my volleyball experience in college as well, which made me ultimately like start to like it less, and even outside of college. But I guess I would say my favorite would be track because you're only as good as you train. And you can keep getting better, but it's up to you. And there's something freeing about just running and tuning the world out.
Did your sister? I'm going to assume your sister ran track with you. Did you run the same races?
Yeah. So for that, and that's probably also coloring my preference here. She, we did everything together pretty much. I think in high school we had every class together. Even in college, we had every class together. So again,
By accident or on purpose? Because in high school you don't get to choose your schedule.
I think we could. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I think we could. Excuse me. So yeah, we did a lot together and we were on the volleyball team together. We just played different positions and we both did track and cross country. And kind of again, we played different positions where it's like I ran the 800 meter, the mile, and I was usually an extra or I was 100% committed to running the mile relay. So I would run a 400-meter lap after the mile. And then Cassie always did the mile and the 2 mile. So she always did a little longer distance in track than I. And I think part of my preference here is in high school, I felt like our coach slightly favored Cassie. So, yeah, that also colors my preference here.
I I I was really curious if you were running the same races because uh, I I don't. I've met both of you, right? I mean, I've met you and I've met your sister at conferences, and you don't seem to be competitive to each other. So I don't know how that would have worked out. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, it's it's so interesting and it's kind of changed the older that we've gotten and the further away from a like the same schedule for the both of us. So it's definitely drifted a bit, but we're very similar, but we're also very different. And I don't even know where to start on that.
No, 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 no. I do sense some of that when I meet you, which is good. You got to still have your own individuality. That's important. All right. So sports was a big thing in high school for you. You're not really doing anything with computers yet. So when you're about to graduate, what are you thinking? Like, what's the next step? It sounds like you're thinking university, and you said you played volleyball. So I'm wondering if that was some form of a scholarship or a walk on.
Yes. So, and this is the case for both me and my sister. We both were going to go the sports route, actually. We were getting in touch and talking with a bunch of colleges. I, well, and her, we had opportunities to go to a few different colleges. And I think that we didn't really know what we wanted to major in, if I'm being honest. It was in my senior year, very, very late when I decided. And I only decided because I took some personality tests and they were like, oh, you'd be good in science and engineering, blah, 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 like computer science, among other things. I don't remember all of them. And kind of like monkey see, monkey do. Our brother did computer science, or one of them did, and he was a software engineer. And so monkey see, monkey do. And so I just went with it. And same for Cassie, we just kind of went with it. And again, very, very last minute because we were talking with volleyball coaches. We had offers to go play at different universities, well, only in Texas. I only entertained anything in Texas because I didn't want to be far from home or my family. And so I think the furthest was Kingsville A&M, and that was a few hours away. I don't remember how many, maybe 4 or 5 from this area. I might be off on that, but I think so. And yeah, so I don't know. We ended up choosing and going to Texas State University, so go Bobcats, which is kind of cool. this is supposed to be kind of the state of Texas, which it kind of looks like it. And then this is pointing to San Marcos, which is roughly in the state where San Marcos is. So it's kind of cool. And then Bobcats. I always call them the Bob Kitties for fun, but the Bobcats, go Bobcats. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, kind of slightly on a whim and just seeing our brother do computer science. We chose computer science and had no experience with it at all up going into college, and then just dropped volleyball. Again, I don't know. We had offers and we wanted to do it. It just I wanted direction on what to major in for my future career, and that was more important to me than finding a school to play a sport at. And so to bridge that gap, both Cassie and I walked on for the Texas State volleyball team. So it's a D1 volleyball team, so they're very good. And we made it. Both of us made it. And we ended up not doing it.
Wow. So walk on, for those who don't understand D1 sports, right? It's almost impossible to walk on and then not play on the practice squad, essentially, right? So those coaches, when they saw you, must have lit up, like, oh my God, where did these girls just come from that they're good enough to play on the D1 squad? And then you decided at the very moment, nah, like you teased those coaches. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, it was a very long process. We had to talk with them and meet up with them, and we'd walk down to practice every day. And I mean, it was like a job, basically. It's 20 hours a week that they require
It's
of
D1
you.
sports. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And to me, I mean, I graduated high school as the salutatorian, so grades were very important to me. And I actually graduated college with a 4.0. And I didn't want to sacrifice my studies and me finding a career and excelling for a sport that who knows how far I would actually get into and potentially make a career out of it. I mean, it would be like I would just become a coach maybe, or have some sort of a club or something like that, which I can do.
To be fair, you didn't need the scholarship, right? Like if you're a kid who needed the scholarship to go to school, then maybe that time that you have to dedicate is kind of what you're paying towards your tuition, let's say.
Yeah, I suppose this is, I haven't touched on that aspect of it. And I would say we were raised in a comfortable family, like economic wise, where I guess we would be like middle class. And both of our parents worked so hard for everything that we like had in our lives. And handouts were not a thing. So scholarships were important in deciding what college. And I mean, number one for me was being close to home and my family. And so Texas State was 30 minutes up the road from my family's house. And yeah, actually, I got quite a few scholarships just because of my grades and SAT, ACT scores, and other stuff that I applied for, because I was constantly like, what is a scholarship that I can apply for, and that kind of thing. So that was an aspect here. But walking on for Texas State, I don't think they were giving us any money or any financial anything.
No, you wouldn't have. Not the first year.
Yeah.
You may have become scholarship the next year. But yeah, but I like the way you balance the idea of I'm not here to play volleyball. I'm not a scholarship player. I'm not willing to dedicate that amount of time towards it because it's not important to me as much as these other things.
Well, and there were again, this is where volleyball does have its downfall, because if you have teammates who are not team players, it sucks for the team. And there were several who were rude. They didn't care about their grades and they were failing some, not showing up to class, or being late to class. And so those professors were emailing the coaches. And mind you, I had a 2 week tryout period. And so I got this sense that not as like some of them didn't care. And because of stuff like that, then we as a team would get punished. And I didn't like that. Like they had different priorities and things that were important to them, which I guess wasn't school. And we got punished because of that. And I didn't like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. Okay, I have one interesting question. What did your brother think, the computer science brother, when you said we're going to go to college and study computer science, bro?
He just kind of was like, all right. And he definitely helped us. And because I mean, don't get me wrong, I literally failed my first computer science quiz, literally failed it. And I remember I had this moment of like, is this for me? Am I making the right choice here? And he consoled us and was like, no, you'll be fine. You'll get it. Just give it time. So he very much was a support mechanism and someone, with real world experience who could help guide or coach us on different things. And honestly, it was one of the best things that happened to us because we got so close with Ethan because we also lived with him because we caught his tail end of college. So it was me, Ethan, and Cassie all in this unit, all living together, attending college as he wrapped up.
But not your first year, right? Your first year, you had to live in a dorm or you got to live off campus?
So if you live within 60 miles, I believe, of Texas State, you do not have to live in a dorm.
Ah, so you got to live technically off campus. Okay, interesting. Because I was imagining you had to live in a dorm and then you had to have a roommate other than your sister. And I would have thought that was going to be interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of the start of us being like the three amigos or just getting really, really close. So it was really, really nice from that perspective.
What was your, out of the 4 years of that undergraduate degree, what was your favorite class? Computer science, or not even, who cares? What was your favorite class and what was your like least favorite class?
I guess it's so heavily weighted in my mind, not necessarily by the content, because I think each class, even as you progress, you learn new things, you expand your mind and your knowledge. And so you're always learning and it's always interesting. But I think the thing that always made me love a class more than another was who taught it. And so, because of that, I would say the data structures and algorithms class was actually my favorite because that professor, and actually, he's coming over to my house today. So probably, yeah. So there might be recency bias here. I won't lie, but he, I, I just really, really liked him, and he made me better. And I would take advantage of going in for mentoring and guidance and asking extra questions. And you could just tell that he was one of those professors that really cared. And so, as a student, I want to take advantage and develop that relationship so I can keep growing. And so that's why I loved that class the most, data structures and algorithms, because he pushed us.
And you didn't get to take another class with this professor. It was like the only class you had with this professor.
That was, I think, the only class I had with him, and I still keep up with him to this day. Even on, like, he'll tell me about health things that come up, and I just check in on him. Like, I don't know. And I go back to Texas State and I help mentor his class and present to them on things that I've learned and things that they should keep in mind and consider. So I always give back to his classes too.
That's amazing. You had no idea the first day of class that was going to be somebody super important.
Yeah, so that was my favorite. I don't really think I have a least favorite, if I'm being honest with you.
There wasn't one computer science class that you really struggled with where you were just maybe frustrated or you're like, why do I have to learn this?
Mm, one doesn't stand out as a least favorite. And I also, during the semester, Cassie and I would do co-ops and stuff too. So it's like every semester there was always fun.
Yeah, no, no, that's fair. I had a class, I don't know if I ever shared this on the show. My least favorite class was this digital design class where you had to like, I don't know, you had the breadboard and you had to do the wires, and there's just the professor didn't teach you anything, he just threw you in a lab and said, here, like follow these instructions. So light bulbs never clicked on for me. I don't know, I hated that class.
I guess you did spur like a thought on one that was a less favorite. Kind of along the same note of what you're getting at. It was just the professor was a bit more tenured and he didn't care as much. So it's just a polar opposite of my favorite, where the professor was going up over and beyond for his students. But this one was very lazy, and it was for human factors. So human interactions with tech and information systems and stuff like that. So it's very rudimentary. So it wasn't as engaging. And then the professor didn't do any special sauce to keep it interactive and fun.
I gotcha. Yeah, you're gonna have those.
Yeah.
I think everybody that does at least the 4 years has some experience. Okay, so you're you're finishing your 4 year, your undergraduate degree. It's coming to a close. Let's say you're getting into your last semester. You have to think about what's next. So, are you thinking masters? Are you thinking I'm done with school?
Oh, that was so hard for me. So hard to decide because I didn't really know anyone outside of professors who had gone for further education. I just didn't have anyone in my social network that I could lean on besides professors. And I feel like they're biased. They want you to keep in academics. And I also did some research and presented at conferences and stuff and was a grader. So I had really good relationships with professors who were pushing me towards, hey, you should get your master's or PhD. So it was really, really hard for me to decide. I don't know. I always teetered back and forth on that. And ultimately, I just thought about the opportunity cost. That is what made the decision for me. And, getting my job right out of college, I was learning. So it's like I was still learning, I was still growing as a person and in my career. So it made me happy. So then I never thought twice about, did I make the wrong decision? Should I go back? And I might come back to this in the future, like future Sam, and say, what the heck? I'm going back. But at least for now, I'm very happy. And I think that's the thing in our careers and in life. We just want to be growing, have progress, and keep developing ourselves. And I feel like I can do that in my current job. And so I don't feel like I'm missing out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Were you doing any sort of internships or any sort of jobs while you were in university?
I did four. So Cassie and I don't know. Being a twin, I think, helps to push you in ways that you wouldn't understand unless you're a twin, because we can see how others perceive the other. So you kind of get to look at yourself in a mirror almost, but in another body. And so we were always pushing ourselves and always going to career fairs internal to Texas State University in Austin, because Austin's just up the road from San Marcos, like 35-40 minutes. And so yeah, we got four internships throughout college, all of them together. And it was interesting actually, because some of the companies chose to separate us and some kept us together. So we've gotten a mix, and a mix of smaller, well, I guess just in my own past experience, including full time, small, and large companies. And I don't even remember, I think my first internship was sophomore year. So I didn't get anything freshman year, but I also don't think that was on my radar. You know, as a freshman, still new to computer science, it wasn't necessarily on my radar. Even though I was going to these career fairs and stuff, I don't know. It just didn't happen that first summer.
So these were summer internships.
I believe two were summer and two were during the semester.
So what was this first summer? So you do a year of computer science and now you get this summer internship. So
So that was in Belton, Texas at CGI. I think that stands for Canadian Government something. I don't know. It's been a while. And that we basically moved up to Belton and stayed in an Airbnb, her and I sharing a room, sharing a bed together. And it was a lot of fun and we learned a lot. For that, they put us on different teams on opposite sides of the building. Yeah, so what I did was I worked on ASP, so like ASP.NET, like C Sharp, web application development for this labor management solution. And it involved with working with databases, so MySQL, and basically building everything from the ground up. And there was another intern with me on the project, and he actually handled more of the front end and the design and user facing stuff, and I did more of the other stuff, which was fun. Yeah, so that was my first internship, and that was really fun. I learned a lot, and I think that's something with every job. You learn things that you like and you learn things that you don't like, and that's the value you get out of it, and you grow.
so what didn't you like about it? Now that you've said that, what did you learn from that internship that you're like, I don't want another internship or job that has this aspect to it?
I think for me, and I don't know why, but a few of my internships I actually had more social learnings, if you will, where I had an uncomfortable situation or something that happened that shouldn't have. And so I had to grow personally because of it, along with my technical learnings. So the thing that I didn't like about this internship in particular was there was this one guy on my team, and the whole team was typical, like, literally the whole team. Like when we would go in these conference rooms for a big team meeting where our director was talking to us, I think it was about 19 older white men. And so I was the one that stuck out. And so, and that's fine. That I can deal. But the thing that I didn't like was one of those guys would not look me in the eyes. He would not talk directly to me. And if he was asking us something on our project, he would always direct his questions and even his subconscious body language towards the male intern. And that was the first time that I don't know, it like upsets me even thinking about it because it just wasn't fair. It wasn't nice. And so I cried. I cry a lot if I'm being honest, if stuff like that happens, because I'm sensitive, I guess. I don't know. And so, I mean, I talked with HR, and the weirdest thing happened because then I ended that internship, and it was like a good relationship. Like the guy would go out to lunch with us. So I don't really know why there was such drastic change, but there was.
I've met two types of male engineers in our industry. I'm two of them. Ones that are just completely clueless about their behavior, need to be told, and want to improve. and literally just don't know. They haven't been taught for whatever reason. This is not how you behave. And once you bring it out, they learn and life is good. And then the other ones that don't care. In fact, they're going to get angry the moment you sort of bring it up. Uh, I just don't know where those people come from.
Yeah, yeah. So I've had different experiences kind of like that in my internships of all things that I think made me stronger and obviously it helped to mold me. And that's part of why I am so active in my communities and making sure that stuff like that doesn't happen. So that was my first ever internship and my first ever experience like that. I don't know. I had three others, and I could touch on those. I definitely don't remember everything. I don't know where you want me to go because I can keep talking.
Yeah, no, no. I'm just kind of interested the from a tech perspective, some of the tech that you were working on between essentially 2016, right, through 2020. That's when you were, let's say, in university. So you were doing some ASP.NET and you were doing some back end development in 17. Kind of like your next internship. What did you get to kind of what tech did you get to work on?
Sometimes I mix up the orders, but I think I wrote it down. I wrote my order down. Nokia. Next was Nokia, and so yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Nokia.
I so
Okay.
throughout college, I
Okay.
got to work with a lot of varying things, I think, which was really nice for me to learn what I liked and what I didn't like. And so at Nokia, that was much more cloud native, working on their SaaS AWS offering and giving them monitoring capabilities in a Kubernetes cluster. So Kubernetes environment in AWS. And and I, on that one, that was a different experience because Cass and I got to be on the same team working on basically the same stuff. And so that was giving them Grafana and Prometheus, scraping their cluster for metrics, and creating nice dashboards for the team. So that was that.
I struggle with those technologies. I have other people around me that know how to install that stuff and do it. That stuff isn't intuitive to me to install, to configure. Did that feel intuitive to you, or did you? Okay, I'm telling you right now, my hands are up like this all day. Help! 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 Help!
Yeah, I definitely think it's interesting because of where I'm at now, thinking back, deployment, infrastructure, configurations. Oh my, yes, it's very challenging on a very different front than, say, application development. And so that's where this internship was nice because I got to experience that more of the deployment side and how do you connect things and scrape for metrics here. Oh, you want more metrics? And yeah, PromQL is like not necessarily the easiest to work with. So definitely a learning curve. And mind you, I didn't even do anything with Kubernetes before this internship, much less anything in the cloud. So this this internship was really great from that perspective because then I got to be more cloud native. And I think monitoring and observability is a crucial aspect for any software solution. So it was really important work and really, really fun. So that was my Nokia experience.
So you got to experience some ops stuff, and you've already had experience doing dev stuff. So I'm kind of curious at that point, are you feeling like, I think at that point you lean one way or the other, right? Or maybe you're just like, I love both, which is not me. I lean on the dev side much more than the ops side.
I don't know. I think it was just another great opportunity, and I think at that point, I don't know if I had. I think I did have preference towards the app developer side, and I think that's part of like why I'm in that space right now. But you know, in my current role, I have to do both, especially being at a startup. So I, yeah, I guess lean towards the app dev side too.
Okay, that's fair. And then those last two, real quick, those last
Yeah,
two
yeah, yeah.
other internships.
Okay, Dell and AMD.
How did you get into all these big companies? Okay, this is insane. Nokia, Dell, AM, like you don't just get internships at these companies. Like this is okay. You have to tell us how you got these internships.
Cassie and I again went to career fairs and made ourselves known year after year. And it got to the point, senior year where we'd go and they'd be like, oh, it's the twins. Not everyone knows the twins, but it's a distinct factor. We are the twins. Like a lot of people know us. And there's plenty of twins out there, but I don't know. We're known as like the twins. And oh, hey, they're back this year. And so yeah, we just kept working and developing those relationships. And I actually did have an offer for another internship that I actually turned down too. So I had 5 opportunities, around grading for the university and doing stuff for different professors. But yeah, Dell and AMD. Dell I got because of a hackathon too that we did, and so part of that was looking at like, oh, what did they build and how did they work as a team and that kind of stuff. So a definitely different interview style. So that's how I got that one. And then AMD, I think the recruiter just really wanted Cassie and I, and they remembered us, year after year. And so that's how we got that last one. And yeah, so Dell, I was, and I don't know, you learn things you like and you learn things you don't like. That I had to do some, it sounds so like less cool in comparison to some of the other things that I had done previously. But Dell, I was on the federal team in this really dark office, and I was working with PowerShell and Windows scripts that they had this problem where they had services that kept restarting or they were shutting down and they needed something to trigger that restart if the status of it was down. So basically, there I made these band aid scripts in PowerShell of all things. So that was my experience for the most part at Dell. And I also kind of got to help with one of their emerging technologies team working on Kubernetes and helped them to devise a scale plan for their cluster. So I got to do some cool stuff there. And that's because we had Kubernetes experience. And then at AMD, AMD was a very different experience because you're working with different kinds of engineers, right? You're not working with just software engineers. And so because of that, not everyone knew of all of the best practices and latest things that you should be mindful of as a software engineer, right? Because they're coming from varying engineering backgrounds. And so the work that I did there was more at enabling the internal developers or internal engineers, and actually was working with Python. And there I was working with this package called Cookie Cutter and developing these templates so that they could develop these applications for whatever they needed, but with good structure, good practices, that kind of thing. And I think I did some other stuff also kind of with their cloud team. I don't remember all of that, but that's what I do remember.
These all these amazing internships that you got, right? Like resume, beautiful resume, sort of internships. Were your relationships with your professors it all helped, or it literally really was the networking and just showing up that you were doing?
The networking and showing up and making my presence known outside of just a classroom environment. I became a grader for one of my professors and I did some research for another, and that was through the university, but all of my internships I got through me being me and working on networking and relationships.
Did you sort of research what you needed to do and then did it, or this just all sort of happened naturally?
Again, I think this is where being a twin always helps because because it's like we would push each other. We would review each other's resumes, be like, okay, like we need to work on this, and just constantly thinking about how can I be setting myself up for success. And it's something I do even to this day of like, making sure I'm always going towards my North Star. And my North Star now is very different than, trying to find a job when you're in college and trying to find the next internship or the next opportunity just to keep growing and developing skills and making myself desirable when it comes to like full time.
So you're going to graduate in 2020. This is now basically the
COVID.
beginning. Well, you're in the
Yes.
middle of COVID at this point,
Yes.
right? Because you're going to graduate in the summer, and COVID starts really in around February, March. So, one, how challenging was it for you to finish your degree because you're switching? Everything has to go online, and I don't get a sense that you did a lot of online classes prior to that.
Sorry, I only ever did online my last semester.
So that had to be a challenge. I would have been a challenge for me. I think it's easier to sort of slack off.
Uh, I don't think so because my last semester, I was not taking the full course load. I had fewer classes, and one of them was working at one of my internships, and I think it was AMD. And yeah, it was AMD. I was working at, and so I had a lower class load that was online, and Cassie and I also balanced our courses in college to where it was half basics, half computer science, always. Whereas, most people will do all of their basics, knock them out, and then uh, all of their upper level elective and major specific classes at the end. But then, with computer science classes, that's a lot. If you have projects for class XYZ and big exam, like it was a strategy that Cassie and I started our freshman year where we split it half and half. And because of that, my last semester where I was online was like political science, um, my internship, and one or two other classes, but they were not computer science related. Like I was basically done at that point with computer science stuff.
Well, I would argue that you got a little lucky with the scheduling because there are times where you can't take that class because it's not offered necessarily that semester, and you need a requisite, so you can't take that class anyway because you haven't taken the other one. And I think that's why that happens to a lot of people, right? Competition for classes and scheduling. So I would argue that maybe you got a little lucky, or you were just really proactive in scheduling.
I think also if you have an extra set of eyes looking at how to prioritize classes and stuff, it also helps, right? Because we took all of the same classes together. So if I'm looking and I'm like, oh, we need to do like this one, that one, and another, and she's like, no, we're doing this instead, it helped to always have someone right there with you being like, no, we can be better for some reason.
So, but that internship now has to also turn remote, doesn't it? You're not going into the office.
I think it was only remote towards the end of it. And it also really was not ideal from the perspective of I wanted it to turn into a full time, right? That's always what you want is one of these experiences in your college time frame to become full time. And I mean, it made sense that the last one would hopefully be easiest to turn into a full time offer, but no. Then with COVID, AMD went on a hiring freeze. Yeah, so uh, it was rough. It was not what I expected.
Yeah, yeah. So where are you now, right? So it's the middle of 2020. You've now graduated. The entire economy's gone home. Nobody's hiring. It's like not a great time to be sort of graduating. So what's the plan and the strategy at that point?
do my best to find something. And again, Cass and I were going to career fairs in Austin, and one of the career fairs downtown at the Capital Factory, which is this big startup hub area in Austin, I came across a company that really liked me and talked with them at that career fair. And then they reached out and I interviewed and got an offer.
And what was that company?
That was Fathom 5. So they're a company downtown Austin, or I guess downtown. I don't know exactly what you call downtown, but their focus is primarily like maritime software and designing cyber physical test beds to help you test different things, say on different vessels that you might not want to test on the actual vessel itself, like sprinkler systems. I think when I left, the team was working on a helicopter simulator, so like a flight simulator basically. So stuff like that, much more industrial at the edge. So, another different lens for me to view software through. Whereas in some of my past internships and where I'm at now, it's much more cloud native. So
What was their stack over there? Was it a lot of C programming?
Go.
It was
That was
Go.
my first that
Ah,
was
your
my first
introduction to
job
Go.
working with Go, and it was a blast. They let us do a lot of really fun things, and a lot of the tech stack for some of the stuff was already there, and so it was looking at, okay, well, we have this existing code base. We need to figure out how to easily deploy it to these cyber physical test beds, which mind you are like huge. They're like taller than me, and we need to figure out how do we deploy monitoring infrastructure onto it. How do we do that? What do we want for that? And so it's here that I kind of got more insights into, I guess, observability into Go microservices, and I got to experience more of a microservice architecture and working in a fast-paced team and picking up good Go practices, because I worked very, very closely with one of the senior engineers on the team. And so, I'd work on cleaning up the code and making sure we had good logging and observability and that kind of stuff.
So how long were you there? You made a comment where I feel like you were there for a year or less.
Yeah. Yeah. It was basically a year that I was there.
So what happens? Why do you leave in a year?
Oh, well, now we get into, I guess, a more personal realm, but I actually left that company because once upon a time I was engaged and I had a house with that person, and working at a 16-person startup when you get unengaged with that same guy
Oh, okay.
is not
Yeah, you don't have to say
conducive
anything more.
to.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
All right. You
And
couldn't
so
stay
that's why
there.
I left there. I got
Okay, that's fair.
unengaged. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I get it. I get it. That's fair. If it hadn't been for that, you were enjoying the work for the most part. And
Oh my God, yes. Again, the thing for me is always making sure that I am growing on some front. And I was growing my understanding of Go there and growing. I think I started, well, I guess I started to learn about the Go community in college because I did go to GopherCon in 2019 when I was in college. But Fathom 5 was my first Go in industry experience, and so because of that I would start to like look into other avenues and how I could keep growing and Go. So that's where I think my whole love for Go and wanting to keep being back end and be in the application development space is kind of, it was kind of fostered there, I think I would say.
so it's time to find another job. So do you hit the job boards? Do you start reaching out to people that you know? You've got relationships at this point. So what do you do?
this was the weirdest thing. So this one I actually got because, so, during my time in college with Cassie, we were just applying anywhere and everywhere that would take our resume. And so around this time, a hiring manager at Intel reached out to my sister because he had her college resume on file, and he's like, "Hey, are you available? Like, I'd like to chat with you about this role." And she told him no, but I was. And she's like, she's got more or less the same experience. And it happened to be an all go team in the Internet of Things group, at the edge. And it just was meant to be.
Yeah, it's the
I
universe.
can't
It's the
even,
universe
yes,
coming
like
in.
I'm getting
Yeah.
goosebumps talking about it and thinking about it because it was just meant to be. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
you
go
you
ahead.
went through the interview process, okay, and that went well. How was that interview process anyway?
Yeah. So I interviewed on my birthday, and it was, again, just a coincidence that one of the interviewers also had the same day for her birthday. So, and oh my God, I keep up with her too. Neetu, she's who I do a lot of my extracurriculars with. And so, yeah, it was just the start of something so amazing. And that interview process was more spitfiring, different questions at me. Um, I don't even remember them, but I just remember it was like they spitfired different tech questions at me and were asking about my experience with Go. I don't even remember if there was actually like a coding aspect to it beyond the spitfire, because I think they needed someone on the team too. And I had already kind of interviewed more of a behavioral thing with the manager. And so it was literally the next day they're like, "We want you." Or actually, no, it was same day, like maybe an hour after the technical interview, that the manager was like, "We want you." So it was very quick pace uh, process.
Nice. That's exciting. And it feels good that you could go through an interview like that quickly and then somebody
Yeah,
wants you. Yeah, yeah. That's amazing. So you started with them. What year is this now? Like 22?
I don't even.
Oh, I was 20, maybe 21. Well, you graduated in the middle of that. You did a year. So it's got to be like near the end of 21, 22.
Yeah, yeah. And I was with Intel for 2 years, and I really, really enjoyed my time at Intel. And I got to do even more different things, but also kind of expound on some of my previous technical experiences. And so here, my first project, I think, was a smart city solution. So this was like a new realm I was entering of computer vision based applications and machine learning and at the edge. Well, I guess with Fathom 5, it was much more industrial edge applications. And it was kind of the same here. So also very relevant experience uh, helped the manager really want me to. And so here I was on a team, and we developed a smart city solution that was, I think it was around some project that was proprietary, or I don't know. It was based on some existing thing out there for like Mexico City, angling at improving situational awareness and city safety. So identifying cars and people and putting bounding boxes on the film and that kind of stuff. So
This sounds like movie stuff. This sounds like the beginning of some movie where somebody's sitting in front of 20 monitors and
I
squares are
know.
going off. And
So this one was very interesting because it's like surveillance, and it kind of gets at that icky where you're getting at the ethical boundaries of computer science, and you start thinking about that kind of stuff much more. So it was very interesting from that perspective as well. And Intel has all of these committees and stuff for making sure that their solutions are ethically bound and good and that kind of thing. So it was all within their realms of like, this is okay. Uh, so that was my first project, and it was again working with Go microservices at the edge, RTSP stream, so video, and it was so fun. I got a Nook shipped to me. I had all these computers, all these cameras, and yeah, that was my first solution. And
So that was a remote job. That was a remote
yes,
job.
yes, this was my first job
Oh.
that was fully remote, and it was kind of weird actually when and maybe this is the downfall of how fast paced that whole interview process and everything was, but the manager never relayed to me that there was an expectation that I relocate to Arizona.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was very awkward because, I'm like day two, day three, and he's starting to talk to me about this, and I'm like, no, 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 I am not moving. And so, also at the same time, mind you, our mom is sick with cancer. So I'm very grateful for a remote job where I can take care of my own family around work, but still do work and have that be a priority in my life. And yeah, so relocating was not an option for me.
Is that why you end up leaving Intel? Because they just pushed the relocation?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the manager dropped it. Honestly, yeah, I told him I don't want to move. I'm very close with my family. And honestly, I don't we only knew that my mom was sick for like 5 months. So it was 5 months during 2021. So I think it was like shortly after I joined Intel that we found out. So of course I'm like, heck no, I am not moving. And I think it went pretty far up the chain that I was like, okay, she's not moving, like she's going to work remotely. And so, I just keep my head low. I do really good work and I keep making my team and everyone proud. And so they were happy with that. And yeah, so that was my first part of Intel was a smart city solution and around work, taking care of my family and us trying to remain sane with our mom who's like,
Yeah, that's not easy to. At some point, you have to try to forget it's happening so you can work, and then sort of bring it back. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to do that.
yeah. And I guess I really enjoy what we do for a living. And there, the smart city solution was kind of my first intro into computer vision based applications. And so I got to learn about like GStreamer multimedia frameworks and how you can work with the film and do all these different things with it. And it was just so fun because from there the next project that I worked on was more for images, and it was healthcare images of all things, and enabling this machine learning pipeline for anomaly detection in cellular images. So I'm like, something I could be passionate about and keep learning with. And yeah, so I just kind of kept on with these really fun projects in the computer vision and Go space. And I also, at this time, they asked me to start helping out with another kind of like emerging technologies, machine learning focused team where there's this product manager who was trying to understand, where does Intel sit in the machine learning landscape? Where do we need to improve? What are our tools available? How do they compare? How do our OpenVINO Model Zoo open sourced models compare, to NVIDIA and all of these other open source models that you can get for free? How can we make them better? Because the org that I was in, everything we did was computer vision, edge applications, and we were the only group that I was aware of working with Go. So yeah, that was kind of cool. And I don't know, here I got to work on helping design, like, how can we be low code or no code and enable maybe people who want to do things with machine learning applications. How can we make things like the model doing in out occupancy counting in like retail scenarios more accurate? So if you're walking into a door or out of the door, drawing a line, like a bounding line across it, and if you cross that threshold, how do we make sure we're accurately counting you? If there's all of these different things like occlusions and lighting scenarios and diversity in terms of the film and the camera, and
It sounds like you could have been there for 10 years doing this stuff,
yes, yeah.
but you leave Intel. So what's up with that?
After 2 years, so that last year I think is really important because my last year at Intel, I'm working very closely with Neethu. And Neethu is this amazing woman who she has the same birthday as me, who helped interview me. And she just took me under her wing and we did all of these extracurriculars together. My last year and even before my last year, but specifically my last year at Intel, where I think I did 4 conference presentations that year, published articles for IEEE magazine, and work on what is it? A patent. We were working on a patent. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. You know,
You got your name on a patent application.
well, a going through the Intel process. So I eventually will circle back with Neethu on that. But yeah, she just took me under her wing and showed me all of the things that were possible and helped me to work on my professional image and getting my name out there and becoming a technical leader. And that is how Diagrid found me. The CTO reached out to me on 3 different platforms: LinkedIn, email, and Twitter. So the persistence there was above all else, because you always get recruiters, a hiring man, like you'll get stuff in your inbox, but most of the time I'm like, like I'm not looking. And I really thought I was going to be at Intel for the rest of my career. Everyone at Intel, they're there for decades, a great culture, great support, fun projects, and great people. But this door opened and I just felt like, again, it was a sign. And so, I mean, yeah, we lost my mom. And so I'm very much more of, if it's a sign from the universe, I need to listen. And I just kept listening for things to guide me as I continue to grow. And the door opened. And, I reach out to the professor who's coming over today. And I'm like, hey, Greg, what do I do? Do I take it? And he was like, yeah, you'd be stupid not to. So
See, I think it's a really, I don't know the company you're at, but to walk away from a company the size of Intel with the level of projects they have and that job security, maybe your salary growth isn't going to be as big as it could be somewhere else, but like the security, the healthcare, the stability, it's a hard thing to walk away from.
I think for me, I also, I mean, I'm still young, right? Like I can take on more risk now. And I really enjoyed my time at my first startup where I was the 13th hire. And here, I think I was like the 17th or 18th hire. So it's fun. And you learn and you grow in different ways. And
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. You like that fast pace. I'm going to do a little bit of everything. I'm going to make a bigger impact. And this is absolutely getting in production as opposed to a lot of the stuff you're working on Intel was more R&D, let's say, than anything else, right? So I get it.
yeah, and that was one of the other things at Intel. We would work so hard on these solutions. And yeah, they were never, I mean, some of them the customers take and they will update and do this and that. So that way they do run them in production. But like, we're not supporting that. We're not taking that code into production ourselves. So I, some of the projects weren't always used to the extent that I would have liked. and that's fine. I mean, Intel is at its core a hardware company, right? And they do really cool things with software too. But that's where this would give me that experience that I wanted of, taking it all the way to production in the cloud, super fast pace, go back end. And I mean, man, I've grown so much and it's so enjoyable. Like we work with, again, really great people. It's, I guess, a little different too here from like, I don't know, I guess some of my other experiences where my end users are other software engineers, other application developers. And it's in this really fun space of, enabling application developers to focus on their business logic and not have to solve all of these problems that we've solved with 10 million different tools in 10 million different ways. So
Will this company or has this, because you've been here now for a year?
I honestly think a year and a half going to 2 years. Yeah.
You've given talks at GopherCon before,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Right. Which year did you give that talk at GopherCon? Was it last year or the year before?
I presented 2 years. This would have been my third year in a row if I got accepted, but I did not get accepted, which is fine. I'm still going. I'll still see you there. But yeah, so yeah, it's the last 2 years, and I believe it was my last year. No, it was my first year presenting at GopherCon. I was main stage GopherCon presenting on an integration testing solution with Go.
So I'm okay. Go on. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, yeah. So that was my first GopherCon presentation, and the other was on my. I was on one of the Go computer vision applications that I did at Intel. It was the healthcare one.
So this company, I'm glad this company will allow you to continue to do that sort of publishing and public speaking and these types of things.
Yeah. So here it's really nice too. So I am challenging myself in so many more ways in this role, and I've grown tenfold. Like I'm proud of my own internal growth in my role here, and I'm like really looking forward to like where we'll keep going because I think that's what gives me a lot of meaning, and I just enjoy what we do anyways.
So I'm going to throw this out there, Samantha. I'm going to throw this out. I got to throw this out there. Okay. End of October, early November. Would you like to speak at GopherCon Singapore and Australia? I can pull some strings. I
Oh,
know some strings back here I can pull. How would you like to speak? You don't have to say it now because we're on a podcast, but if that piques your interest, because we need speakers, really good speakers at these two conferences, and there are great gophers in that area of the world that
okay.
you haven't been able to meet yet. So I want you to think about it because even though GopherCon USA didn't accept your talk,
I know.
uh, I think we could use that talk at those conferences. How cool would that be?
Yeah, I mean, really cool. I would be game as long as I could get my manager to buy in on it. Um, yeah, because here I definitely have to make sure that because I'm one of our internal product engineers, and we do have a whole team dedicated to the open source Dapper project and making sure that we're doing stuff there as well. But I have to remain, in my lane, and I do like to dabble and do my fun extracurriculars, but I also find a good balance. I'll find a good balance.
Yeah, no, for sure. But this is a way to balance because you'll basically the conferences are back to back purposely, so people can fly in and do both of them. So, if you're interested, send me an email and I'll give you more details. But I would love to see you go out there and share these things, even if USA doesn't want you, bah, get you out there and they're much more grateful. They'll be much more grateful, Samantha, because they know the effort it takes to get yourself.
I was really looking forward to it too because my talk would have, well, I don't even know if I should say it or not.
Say it. Say it. I want to hear it. I want everybody now knows what they missed out. And go for Kanye USA. Here we go.
So, like I kind of mentioned in the beginning, I'm kind of leading our managed service efforts for Kafka and Postgres right now. And so, yeah, my whole spiel is going to be on like the challenges and how do you get to a point where you can establish these managed services, especially at like a fast-paced startup, and all of the challenges and learnings along that end. And it's leaning on the Dapper open source project, actually. Dapper stands for Distributed Application Runtime, and it's all these APIs and SDKs to enable these application developers, right? APIs and SDKs that make it to where you can just say like save state or publish instead of AWS cloud specific package dot whatever. It abstracts all of that away. And so we're using Dapper to abstract all of that and make it easy on us to iterate on these managed services. And so it was going to be that whole journey. I like to make them all like a journey.
It's going to be that because you're going to speak in Sydney. Oh, Katie's going to love me when she hears this. I'm like I'm their official recruiter. So I think the talk is great. So you gotta be on YouTube now and see Samantha's face. She's like, "Oh no, what are you doing to me, Bill? You didn't say you were going to do that."
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. All right, we are completely out of time. I really appreciate you sharing this cool story about how you went from zero tech anything in high school to being one of these world class Go back end engineers in such little time too. So super jealous. It took me like 40 years to get to where you're at. So that's good. That's amazing.
uh, I mean, again, could not have done it without, everyone supporting me. And I gotta say, like, having people you can really relate to and look up to, such as my brother or such as Neethu and Greg, my old professor who's coming over today. Like, I keep up with them and I will keep up with them to help keep guiding me throughout my career.
And that's a good lesson for people that are listening to this, right? Like the relationships you establish and keeping those relationships and being open to the things that are coming at you, but also knowing what your priorities are and standing strong. Like that's a big part of the story that I'm hearing from you. So it's really awesome. If anybody wants to reach out because they had a question to say or say hi after listening to the show, we'll get this on the show notes. Samantha, what's the best way for somebody to contact you?
Reach out on Twitter or LinkedIn.
Okay, we'll get all that on the show notes so people can do that. Okay, so this was amazing. So this is Bill Kennedy and Samantha Coyle saying goodbye, and we hope to see everybody again real soon.